So another item I picked up at the yard sale / giveaway I mentioned in a previous video is this TS1100A/U test set transistor, contract number so-and-so, serial number. Interesting bit of kit here. I thought we'd go ahead and open it up together, find out what it is. We know it's a transistor tester. The case seems to compress a rubber O-ring pretty tightly. I'm assuming to keep water out. Oh, that's interesting. So inside of the lid, make sure I've got this in frame, are a couple of probe assemblies and a little manual, a little tiny manual. Operating instructions for test set transistor, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for, read your instruction book. Got to get this all in frame. How to use, operating procedure, step by step. Red line control, interesting. Leakage test, transistor test data, some test curves, transistor data. Oh, interesting. So here's all kinds of transistors listed. Class, VC, min beta, max current, etc. Boy, does this really go back. I mean, it starts at a 2N27. 2N413. Let's see if they seem to be in numeric order and not, or in alphabetic order and not numeric. That's, I think. Now the numbers are increasing. So 2N511. I'm looking for just like a 2N. 3055 or a, something we'd recognize today. 30. We'll see. 2N15, 2N 2106, 2N 2102. Little NPN signal transistor. So yeah. Oh, cool. It's got package outlines. I actually picked up some vintage transistors while I were there. They're new old stock. Basing diagrams. Of course, most of these packages I recognize. This package right here, I didn't know what it was. TO6. Yeah, I picked up some vintage new old stock TO6s that I think are a 2N36. Is what they were labeled. They were labeled, high power transistor for portal or for car radio kind of thing. Maybe we'll dig one of those up and eventually test it. 2N36 PNP. Interesting. So anyhow, nice little manual. Let's see if we can work these test leads out of here and take a peek at those. Little 3-pin military style connector. Just up to 3 alligator clips. That alligator clip could be remounted. It seems to be soldered on. They're labeled. The yellow's got an E on it for emitter. The green has a B for base, and that would mean the blue has a C for collector. That's nice. This looks like it might have been meant for maybe an in-circuit test. These little grippers here are interesting. Just kind of slide onto a pin. Same connector, I'm assuming. Yeah, they are labeled the same as well. Let's move this out of the way. Just rattle loose in the lid is this little knob, which has been epoxied back together very poorly. Yeah, somebody did a really lousy job. That might clean up. That must go on the interlock pot up here, which doesn't have a knob. So, test. beta measurement, PNP, NPN, bias selector, red line control. Well, the pots, did I see the meter jump there? More than just me mechanically moving it. The pots and everything, or the switches, feel reasonable. It does feel really sealed with the lid on. There's a rubber O-ring here. If you can see it around the edge of the lid, it becomes a compression fit onto the face. Of course, one of the J-clips is missing here. It's been broken off. Well, as we always do, let's take a peek inside, assuming I can find an appropriate flat screwdriver. You know, no matter how many hundreds of screwdrivers you own, you never have the one you need handy. Let's take a peek at what we got. Hopefully I've got this on camera. One of the screws is missing. Somebody's certainly been inside of it before, it looks like. The screws actually have a wire through them, or a hole through them to put a wire through to keep them from vibrating loose. Yep, this one does too. I'm guessing this is from the 60s or maybe early 70s. I haven't seen anything that kind of gives me a date yet, just based on the construction I'm seeing. Don't know that it was military, maybe. Take a look in the back. B battery. I don't know if the batteries are captive underneath those. C battery. It's got a couple of part numbers. Ground, +3, +6, and +12 volts. Battery cable through notch. As deep as this is, those batteries must have been meant to sit underneath. Again, form factor wise, I don't know what a battery of that form factor is. I don't begin to recognize it. It's not heavy enough to me that there's still batteries in it. Let's back out a couple of screws. Keep all the hardware together so I can reassemble it. Teardowns are great. I'm a firm believer in putting it back together in the condition you found it, unless your intention is to scrap it. So this could sit with me for 30 years, and then, you know, once I'm gone or I'm done with it, move on to somebody else. So pretty much just a metal plate, a little bit of cushion on the inside. Battery cable through notch. I'm going to have to look up these battery part numbers. C battery. I don't know what the physical dimensions of the batteries it used are. So of course there we've got the front of the unit. Let's come around the back. Oh, that's really ugly. This is the largest 9-volt battery clip I've ever seen. Obviously, it wasn't for a 9-volt. Just a battery form factor I'm not familiar with. And there's +12, +6, +3 that somebody has written on there. And it looks like 3 leads that come off to 3 different batteries or power splice. So it has been adapted for something. There's 2 more loose wires here that I don't recognize. So interesting. Somebody has modded it. Oh, there's actually an extra wire there. So the +12, well, of course there is. These go off to power supply. These I have no clue. It's conformal coated. You can see it on the capacitors and everything here. It is conformal coated, AEL. Is there a brand name on the front that said AEL? I don't see one. Rosie? Rosie. Go lay down. Got a dog back here exploring in the shop. Don't know. There's these must be calibration pots, or are they just chokes? I'm thinking they're just chokes of some kind, or coils of some kind. Again, it's construction I'm not totally familiar with here. Conformal coated. It is a printed circuit board. All of the traces on it are gold, which makes me think they used gold to block the etchant when they etched the boards. I just watched a video on this the other day on YouTube about how Tektronix made printed circuit boards, and I didn't realize the gold plating on PCB from that era was the PCB kept a ferric chloride from attacking the copper. Quite an elaborate process. I always assumed they used a photolithography process, like when I've made boards I do. So it's pretty typical construction. Point to point, wafer switches. You know, it's pretty much what I expected to see. I don't think I'm going to tear it down any further. I'm tempted to try to power it up. I just wish I knew what these extra 2 wires did. There's no indication. There's the power connections. And there's an additional white and black wire that went off to, I don't want to have to trace them through the loom and see if I can guess what they were. So, well, there's a quick teardown video. Oh, it does say AEL here on the front. An AEL transistor tester. See, I'm not seeing date codes pop out on anything that I'd recognize as a date code. The closest thing's at 3503, and this was not made in 1935. Now 6515 here, maybe a date code, 15th week of 65. I'm not seeing anything that looks like a date code on the other 3. Guess these just really are just transformers. I mean, this one's apparently 100 volt, 0.2 amps. I don't know. You know, this has got multiple windings. This does too, as if it's a transformer. Interesting. So, looking for anything else that might appear to have a date code on it. No, the transistors don't, that I can make out. Just the normal part numbers. Are you still poking around in stuff you're not supposed to be poking around in? Rosie's my older girl. She was adopted at about 11 years old. Came out of what we believe is an abusive home. She's a very nice little girl. Likes lots of attention, as dogs do, and doesn't like it when I'm not giving her attention and looking at my toys. Well, anyhow, I'm going to put this back together and set it aside. I hope you enjoyed the look inside as much as I did. And I will think about whether I'm going to attempt to power it up.